Why is it that when in South America, the Incas were building the city of Machu Picchu and were farming, that at the same time the Aboriginal people of Australia were still hunter-gatherers who used stone tools? In the beginning, when the first humans walked the earth, every human was born the same, and yet the peoples of different continents developed technology at different rates. What determined who got to sail the seas and conquer the world first was who had the resources and the natural advantages to build these things. A good example of this would be comparing South America and Australia, two different and fascinating regions. South America had the natural resources to prosper, like domesticatable animals and plants, and Australia did not. South America and Australia. Oceans apart. What are the differences? What are the similarities? Well, apart from a 97% desert in Australia, the rest of the land in Australia is tropical forests. In some ways, this is similar to South America in the sense that they both have tropical forests. The difference is that in Australia, they have climates of 100 degrees Fahrenheit and higher, and it is very dry as opposed to in South America, where the climates are a little less violent. This made it very hard for some plants to grow. Also, the heat made it the quintessential breeding ground for dangerous bacteria to reproduce. This ended up being very dangerous for the Aboriginal Australians when they were gathering food. So, why did South America prosper and Australia didn't? Like stated earlier, Australia is exceedingly dry and hot, with barely any fertile land. So, there are few plants to begin with for the hunters and gatherers to eat, and on top of that, none of the plants in Australia were compatible for domestication. This made it even harder for the native peoples to find food to eat. Also, there were not many animals to hunt. Australia mainly has marsupials, which are animals like kangaroos. Kangaroos are not friendly at all, so they are also not compatible for domestication. So, no food or animals for domestication. These are two factors that are extremely important when it comes to farming. So, why is farming so important? Because with farming, there comes an abundance of food. With abundance of food, more people could work at other things, other important things such as government, scribing, warfare, science, art, etc. With these new things now in play, a country could thrive and grow. Australia did not have farming because no plants were compatible for domestication. This proves to be problematic because no one could take the time to become any of those positions stated earlier, because everyone was too busy gathering food or hunting food. This prevents Australia from growing, and it becomes easier for it to become conquered. On the other hand, South America's diverse climates and terrain make it easier to grow crops and domesticate animals to sustain its people. The tropical areas provides nuts, fruits, and most importantly, coffee and cacao beans. South America had one huge advantage over Australia, and that is that it had the llama. Why does that matter? It matters because the llama could provide wool, it could carry lightweight items, and more. Now, the llama is not as good as the horse or the ox, but it can carry, because it cannot carry much, humans cannot ride it, and it cannot plow, but it's better to have a domesticatable animal than to have nothing. The abundance of crops and domesticatable animals made it easier for South American people to work without worrying so much about where their food came from. Being supplied with these different crops and animals made it so much easier for South America to prosper. Overall, South America came out on top because it had all these natural resources that were compatible for domestication, such as wild peppers and cacao beans, and Australia had none. This made it easier for South America to grow and expand into the world of education, politics, and culture. Once it had entered that world, they were far superior than the Australians because they had civilized society, which the Australians did not.